America's band.
What is going on, man? We back in Black in the building. Shout out to everybody out there at the Core Plantation doing what you got to do to survive. God damn. Shout out to my brother Dave for No Combine James on Blood. We definitely, I gotta hit them up, man. We gotta get it going, man. And I know them time zones because I know my brother James Youngblood is CST, and then my brother David is EST. My clown ass is PST. God damn. But man, we're going to get it together. Shout out to everybody out there. Shout out to all my family. Everybody's out there. Look, I be blanking on the names and shit because I be thinking about the stories and shit I'm about to talk about today. I'm gonna talk about two stories. We're gonna talk about this brother Dewan Greer, who they kind of dropped him on his face in the Georgia County Jail because they pulled him over for a taillight, some sucker shit, and then he basically said that the state trooper was cool. They just took him to the thing, like, because they said he had a warrant for child support, which I think is some sucker shit, and after that, when he got to the jail, they dropped him on his face. We're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about our brother Kendrick Johnson. We're going to get into that, man. So let's get it, man. Shout out to everybody out there, like I said, Ashani, Erica, all y'all out there, the homegirl, Jerica, Miss Tanya, Latanya, Tasha, everybody out there, man, that's handling business, man. I got nothing but love for y'all out there, man. I just be blanking on the names, man. Let's get into it. Man, I'm about to play this kind of video, man. This is fucked up, man. And they'll do this shit, man. They'll do it. Here, let me play this shit. This shit is fucked up. That they allow me to play without commercial.
Now more.
Yeah, because we ain't playing no commercial. But I'll set up the preface of it before it comes on, man. It's just sad, man. These race soldiers, man, and we took that victory in Alabama. Now you're gonna start to see all these old stories come back up. Here we go.
According to a federal lawsuit claiming all new at 11, the Hall County Sheriff's Office is responding to a federal lawsuit claiming excessive force. We first told you about the lawsuit last night at 11. It was just filed by Dewan Greer, the man seen under arrest, and body camera video from 2021. You're looking at it right now. Greer claims he was forcefully slammed on his face and head while his hands were handcuffed behind his back. He's now seeking compensation, saying he still suffers from spotty vision and dental issues to this day. Hall County Sheriff Gerald Couch is responding tonight, saying while Greer was injured, none of the jailers involved had any ill will or intent to hurt him.
Yeah,
the sheriff
right.
also says the footage released by Greer and his attorneys doesn't tell the full story. The agency has released 16 minutes of unedited body camera footage from the night of Greer's arrest. If you'd like to take a look at it, just look for this story on our website, 11alive.com.
Wow. Yeah, they dropped him on his head. Hold on, I think I got another one. Hold on.
Now more.
Yeah, fuck out of here. Watch again. Let's see. I got one more. It's coming up right now, man, but it's crazy, man, because one of these videos, you literally hear them drop, like, it's just sad. It's sad how we still getting treated to this day. It's very sad. And it kind of is like, God damn. Here we go.
A lawsuit for what they did to a handcuffed suspect. We first.
Why is this doing that?
Because the victims now filed a federal.
Hold on.
And its sheriff's office. Channel 2's Taisha Fernandez is live outside the federal courthouse in Taisha. The victim, that's where that victim announced that lawsuit today.
And it has taken a lot out of him, George. He's been going through this for 2 years. He said he's had PTSD from this incident, and all he wants is accountability and justice.
Man.
The Hall County Jail is the last place entrepreneur Dewan Greer thought he'd end up. This video is from September of 2021. Greer was handcuffed at the jail after a Georgia State trooper pulled him over for a warrant on delinquent child support payments. Greer said it was all a misunderstanding. When he got to the jail, he said Hall County deputies treated him differently.
I'm facing the wall.
than the state trooper and were immediately rough with him.
See,
After
y'all hear
deputies
that?
dropped Greer,
She said, "Oh, y'all," because it was a white woman cop in there, and they dropped his ass, and he immediately was bleeding.
first on a dirty metal floor. He was briefly knocked out, and it took a while for anyone to help.
We see officers standing around failing to intervene when they see clearly other officers that are using excessive force against a person that doesn't have any other means to harm himself or harm anybody.
It was horrible. I didn't know if I would make it out because all the stories and everything you see on TV, like I said, fortunate to be here, a lot of people aren't.
And that's why
Yep.
he and his attorneys filed a federal lawsuit against Hall County and the deputies. A spokesperson for the county said because of the pending litigation, they can't comment.
Either the officers should be held accountable, should be some type of reform inside of that jail, and basically all jails, because their authority takes over.
Greer has been permanently disfigured from this incident. You can see the scars on his eye. That's why he wore the sunglasses. On his mouth and in his mouth, his dental work has been permanently damaged. We're live outside the federal courthouse downtown Atlanta. Taisha Fernandez, Channel 2 Action News.
Wow.
This season, our new Nathan Jeremiah.
Wow. Let's put the music back on. That's crazy, ain't it? Ain't that crazy?
Looking for more than just accounting software?
That is crazy. Yeah, man. They just straight dropped him on his head. Then I seen this thing about Google Maps under lawsuit because they directed these people to drive off a bridge and kill themselves. I was like, damn, what the fuck is going on today? Then they had a great thing about that's sad that brother did that. These race soldiers is out of line, man. Then we got this student, they keep suspending him because he can't have his locks. We have to understand this too. They're gonna do these things on purpose because they know. This is back to what I've been saying a long time ago. We are trendsetters. We set the trends. They market their shit to black folk, and then everybody else goes behind it. Here's the only thing is we set the trends, but black folk gotta understand. Foundational Black Americans, I'm speaking to you. People want to emulate you, but they don't want to be you when it's time for the police to be called, when it's time to buy a house, when it's time to go through this system of racism or white supremacy. Then they want to go back to being white and go to their houses and be with their white friends and all that. They like to use our culture and our blackness as Jordans. Put them on, wear them, rock them, and then put them back in the closet when they done. See, they're looking at us as business. We're looking at them as personal because they can emulate us or they can do things. There's no diss to Eminem or any of these white rappers or anybody out there. There's no diss to them. But my thing is, what do you tell us when we're not? Tell us what is being said when we're not in the room. What are you trying to do to replace the system of racism and white supremacy and establish a system of justice? Meaning the group that needs the most constructive help receives the most constructive help, which is foundational Black Americans. I don't need you telling me about racism and white supremacy. I already know how it works. I know how the infrastructure works. I want to know what you're going to do to replace that system and establish a system of justice. That's all I'm saying. You know what I mean? You know, like, for instance, you know, with the Kendrick Johnson thing. That FBI, that man's kids killed that boy. And that FBI agent was witness tampering. He didn't go to prison. He used his influence. And that's why they said, oh yeah, he just killed himself and wrapped himself in some wrestling mats. Stop. Then you gutted his fucking organs. That whole story was a bunch of, like, they know what they did. They know what they did. Because them white boys didn't like Kendrick. They really didn't like him. They try to pretend. See, we have to understand and use discernment. Some other racial groups that you get around, they will pretend like they really like you and get you around. Then they want to get you around you. They want to embarrass you. They want to shame you. They want to make you feel less than because of their insecurities and their lack of intrinsic value. Because they know how hard it is for black folk, and they know we're the strongest racial group on this planet. They know that foundational Black Americans are the strongest. This is what happens when you slave breed. Like, no diss to Jamaicans and all that, but man, we been beating y'all. Okay, y'all beat us one time. Good luck. But as far as I can count, we been beating y'all in Olympics and basketball and football. Everything stopped. You know what I mean? But what I'm saying is they will befriend you and do that sucker shit and then have you feeling like, oh, they your friend. That's why I'm not gonna challenge black folk to explain racism, white supremacy to the dominant society of the racial groups. What I'm gonna challenge you is this, to stand on your square when you are around your friends, and if it makes them feel uncomfortable, then that really ain't that's not your friend. Because a friend is not supposed to agree with you. A friend is supposed to understand and accept your perspective. And understand, like, yeah, man, that perspective is crazy. And you have to understand, a lot of these people, they don't know history. All these racial groups, they don't even know. Look, how you gonna know your own history and you fled from your country to come here? You don't know your history, and they don't flee your country and come to the United States of America Incorporated and start telling me your shit. I don't give a fuck about your history. You came here, motherfucker. I don't want to hear that shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's another thing that treat me. Oh, my parents came here with $2 in their pocket and they paid. Well, you're here for unearned benefits. According to Black Labor, White Wealth and Powernomics by Dr. Claude Anderson, you're a freeloader. I feel like people come over here because of the power structure that's allowed people to come over here, and it makes them feel like they're above the black folk who built the country for free. Because if that's the case, and if immigrants and everybody built the country, why are all these dominant society people writing these slave books and they not mentioning no Dominicans, no Puerto Ricans, no Cubans? They're not mentioning no Mexicans. They're not mentioning none of that other shit. But they mentioning black folk. Why is it Patty Cannon, her white supremacist ass and her family, how come they weren't kidnapping Dominicans and Puerto Ricans? How come Patty Cannon and them was kidnapping black folk and selling them? How come Henrietta Woods was being kidnapped, put into slavery, released, and then kidnapped, put into slavery? How come that was happening to Henrietta Woods and not to no Dominican or no Puerto Rican? I just don't understand that. You're like, well, what do you mean by that? What I'm saying is this. We have to start understanding what our history is. No matter who it is, no matter what type of, and stop expecting sports players and athletes and everybody to speak about racism and white supremacy. That ain't their job, and they're not going to do that. You ain't going to jeopardize your job, so stop trying to get somebody to jeopardize their shit. We have to understand that too, man. We're real quick to want somebody to jeopardize their shit. Well, man, they don't never be saying nothing. Okay, well, then you go to your job and you start talking. And you going in that job and you start talking and start telling them white supremacists how you feel. And see how long you had that job and see how long you can't pay your bills. You got to be smart and use discernment. Know your history. And that doesn't mean you need to know all your history and, you know, like our elders like Dr. Phil Valentine and Dr. John Henry Clark, I'm not saying you got to know like that. Just know a little bit of it. You can pick up a Black Larry White Wealth book and read that book. Dr. Claude Anderson break down all that shit. You can pick up a Ivan Van Sertima book and read They Came Before Columbus. That's why I be laughing at people when they get to talking that shit. Like I told you about that white lady, you could tell she was educated, so she had a listening ear. And she said, you know what? I see what you're saying. You know what I mean? I just keep bringing it up because she was one of those white women. You could tell she was educated and she knew history. She was like, no, you're right. She was like, you're right. How you gonna ignore black folk, but then infringe the LGBTQ community and everything and push that on black folk, and you haven't even given black folk the retribution and repayment of what they deserve. And that came from a white woman. Well, that's because she was educated. Actually educated. A lot of dominant society people, they don't know the history. They don't care. They just go by what they've seen. Well, we've always been in charge, so it doesn't even matter. Because that's how they feel. You know what I mean? So I think it's time for us to start having a different understanding and understand. Even like the Kendrick Johnson, I got to get back on that. That white FBI, that's what I'm saying. There are white supremacists that have infiltrated the FBI and all law enforcement. And it was a white FBI father whose kids killed that boy, and then he made sure that the camera footage was edited so you couldn't place them with that boy at the same time because Kendrick Johnson had already beat the shit out of one of his sons. And then he invited him over to the house to basically try to do some shit to him. And then he started basically witness tampering. And they didn't bring no charges up on him or nothing. And this motherfucking man still walking around to this day. And these people's kid that passed away. This is the atrocities and shit that black folk, Foundation of Black Americans deal with every day. Let me tell you something. The shit that we deal with every day, man, dominant society had to be jumping out of buildings and killing themselves. They had to deal with what we had to deal with every day. They had to deal with the unjust working conditions. And when I mean unjust, every time you look up, it's a dominant society person in charge. Ain't no black person in charge. You don't even see a black person in charge at a corporate plantation until it's Black History Month. Then you see some nigga in charge that you ain't never even seen or met. And then when you do meet them, they turn up their nose at you and don't even want to fuck with you. That's what I'm saying. So many mammies, coons, sambos, like you gotta fight them motherfuckers because they trying to maintain the system because they just want to live in the system. Like I was watching this thing called My Little Darling or whatever. It was like a spinoff of The Matrix where these fathers, these men, they wanted to create a perfect world. So this guy who's like a scientist created a perfect virtual reality world. But within that world, the women, some of the women knew, but some of the women didn't know. So some of these men kidnapped women, plugged them into this system and made it where they couldn't ever get out. And only the men can get out of the system so they can go make money in the real world to support the virtual reality network. And when one of the girls found out, they were trying to kill that bitch. And let me tell you something, it was all dominant society motherfuckers. They had one black sister on there, and that was the first black sister that knew this was a fake world. Very, very good movie, very interesting. But I'm just saying, they'll do that shit. It's a lot of ciphers around this motherfucker. It's a lot of black ciphers around this motherfucker. It is. Like I said, the dominant society knows, well, we don't even really have to do anything. We've done so much for so long. We just got to let other racial groups and black folk maintain the system. That's why other racial groups come here and they talk about how lazy we are and all this other shit. But then when you start talking about how we built the country for free, then they want to be like, no, we helped build the country. When? And then when you ask, okay, so can we trace your grandmother? How long have your parents been here? Oh, well, my parents have been here for the last 100 years. That's not long. So they was in here in the 1900s. We talking about the 1800s, my G, the 1700s. The fuck you mean? We started building this country in the 1600s. According to Christopher Columbus, Colon, they had to start eating people because they didn't know how to cultivate the land. They had to ask the Moors, black folk, to do it, not the Indians, the Moors. Then when you start going back to history, they want to bring up the Native Americans. Okay, if you want to bring up the Native Americans, then my rebut to that is, then why did they just enslave the Native Americans and make them pick the cotton and make them do everything? Just a question I thought I'd ask. I'm out. Guilty, nigga. Peace.